No baby shark for you.
You are live. Thank you for joining us and welcome to OreAni. This is the 2019 fall season, the end of the year. I'm excited to say it's almost time for the new seasons to come out. But let's go ahead and discuss all the shows that we may have liked or may have not liked that are ending this year for us. With us, as always, is my good friends. Let me see if I can turn this over. Looks like there's Albert. Hello, Albert. We got Sean.
Hello.
We got Jessica.
Hi.
We got Vinny.
Hello.
Is it Vinny or Big Vinny? Which one do you like?
Vinny is fine. Thanks for having me.
And then we got Nick.
Oh no, I forgot drink.
And of course, there's me, Tenkun. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. We're going to start off with the show, which I don't know why. It seems like almost everyone has seen some of it. How do you say this? Hatage Kemonomichi?
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's that wrestling beast
Isekai.
lover, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Isekai. Oh, we're starting with the Isekai series.
About a good third of them are isekai, I think.
So let's see here. So Jessica, why did you like it?
Well, the isekai genre, as it were, is so bloated that at this point, I kind of have to have a really good hook to watch an isekai, and it helps if it's irreverent and dumb, and it's a total guilty pleasure. So that's kind of why I like it, is that it makes me laugh. It is not smart, and it has no pretensions. It's just there to purely entertain. And I know nothing about wrestling, so the whole thing struck me as incredibly goofy and irreverent. So that's why I like it.
So,
I mean,
so
the humor is not subtle at all.
So from what I remember, because I did watch part of it, the guy it gets summoned to another world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has to fight or they ask him to fight the demons, which
Demon
are
beast. They ask him to fight demon beasts, but he refuses because he loves animals, and his dream is to run a pet shop. And so he German suplexes the princess that summoned him and runs off and starts to make friends with all of the demon beasts. He's kind of like Hagrid from Harry Potter, in that his love is totally misplaced. That these are critters that are going to kill you. But he has the ability to make friends with everyone, kobolds, orcs, because he just loves animals so much. I really like that the king of the orcs speaks Kago, which is just really weird. This rough, barbaric orc guy is extremely polite to everybody. So I do recommend it if your sense of humor skews towards the stupid, like mine. So if you get a kick out of random people getting thrown around and hitting into trees, a lot of slapstick physical comedy, then I would recommend this one.
You know, that's actually kind of interesting because, well, not that I don't recommend it or anything, but when this show kind of hooked me in the beginning, it had a pretty unique humor. It had him befriending the demon beast. It was introducing characters. The characters had their humor quirks at first. But probably about halfway through the series, it just kind of ran dry on some topics, and that kind of made me a little a little unsatisfied with the series. Not that I dislike it overall, but for example, like he stopped kind of befriending Demon Beast. Now it was kind of like happening in the background, but the anime didn't really focus on anything new that he went out, met, and like how he subjugated it to his side. Like that was part of the humor that I liked at first. When it was introducing characters, there was the token dragon lolly of the show, and she kind of had these two quirks. She was super strong. She'd like bend metal bars like it was nothing, and people would be like how did you do that? And she was a glutton, right? She ate all the foods like a crazy amount. That was her character. But again, partway through the show, we really stopped witnessing her super strength. Now we got it a little bit in flashbacks, but like she was just the glutton, and it wasn't maximizing on its humor, in just my personal opinion. And towards the end, it kind of picked back up a little bit. It got a little more ridiculous. It started following a plot line instead of just being a little like aimless in the middle, but it's kind of supposed to be. Because one of the humor points of the show is he had this envisionment of getting all these demon beasts, domesticating them, and selling them back to the public. But he isn't really focused on domesticating them right away. So he immediately runs into a problem of, he's feeding all of these in the process of never being domesticated animals. And it's just part of the show. But as I said, it just, there were gags that I almost wish that they didn't abandon partway through, that they continuously focused on here and there. And it just kind of like, to me, it was just kind of like a bait and switch. Like, you hooked me with this humor, and now you're not giving me that humor anymore. You're giving me this other humor. But again, not that I dislike the show, just that I almost kind of wish that it stuck to some of its early guns, like more blended throughout the series. Again, not that I hate it or anything. I was rather impressed with its artwork. I did think the character design was like a lot better than what I would normally anticipate for a show like this.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
one of the things that I noticed right away.
Definitely.
And one of the kind of funny things that it drew me in, not like to liking the show or anything, but I also noticed partway through that at the end of the opening song, there was the characters were all striking a pose, and they would kind of randomly have some of them turn to look at the camera, like right as the ending's about to, right at the ending of the opening's about to, go transition into the show, and it was always kind of like wondering who was going to face the camera, and I was like, well, you got 4 people standing there. Your binary options are pretty much limited to a potential of 17, so you could probably fit that in a 12 episode run, but I was just kind of like, oh, this moment's about to happen. Who's it going to be?
So you watched it just for all the nonsense and laughs?
Yeah, pretty much.
So would you recommend this to anyone?
Yeah, like I said, you have to have a certain sense of humor. If you like physical humor, you'll probably really like this show. Because it's not meant to be taken seriously at all. And the main story arc is all resolved at the end of the 12 episodes, which is nice, because a lot of these adaptations just end. So even if we don't get any more, I was pretty satisfied with the way it all shook out.
Yeah, like in all honesty, if you don't like isekai shows, it's probably for the main reason that a main protagonist or character comes over. And they use their knowledge of Earth as we know it to help them with the magic system of the world, and that's really not at play here. It's like literally the guy ran off and he's just kind of messing around, like not actually messing around, like he's just legitimately trying to start a pet shop of demon beasts now, but like
he's not good at it.
Well, not only that, like he takes his personality to tame beasts is like the only knowledge that he has from Earth.
Yeah.
Like he's not really like reinventing society on the other side.
And
Which
he doesn't get a game breaking ability either.
yeah,
He comes in exactly as he was in the normal world, totally obsessed with animals, good at wrestling. I thought wrestling was all fake, so I don't know how you can be good at it, but yeah.
What?
And so
It's not
basically,
fake.
I don't. My tolerance of isekai is at a limit, but I really liked this one.
So Albert, you never picked it up?
No, I mean, I haven't finished it, so I'm about halfway through.
Okay. Well, how about for the next title we go somewhat in the opposite direction then? It's an isekai, but instead of being comedy and total nonsense, it's a more serious title here. What is this? Honzuki no Gekkokujo? Did I say that right? Gekkokujo?
I only ever refer to it as Honzuki, so
Oh,
I think it's like one of those really long titles. So
in Crunchyroll, they have it as the ascendance of a bookworm, right?
yeah, that's what it got called. And
So
pretty much, if you're in English, you just know it by bookworm because it's not a very common title in Japanese. I just call it Honzuki. So
yeah, so this one's an isekai as well, going in the other direction.
just before we dive into it, I will also say that it's a 14 episode core, and as of right now, only 13 out. So it has probably maybe get another season later. I doubt. I don't know if it's like I don't know what that last episode's going to resolve. So
I think the 14th episode did come out
Yeah,
yesterday.
it's been out for.
has it been out?
Yeah.
Might be.
So
And I'm
14th
pretty sure
episode came out.
Season 2 was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
I
actually
wonder if
one
it
of the
just slipped
shows
by
that I
me. I
watched
didn't see it.
every single week as it was released. This is the only show that really caught my biggest attention this season.
Okay, well then I'm the only one who hasn't seen 14. My bad.
I really loved this show and always looked forward to it. As the English title is mentioned, it's this bookworm girl that gets transferred into the body of a young girl named Mine, and she finds out that she's in a world that books are really hard to come by or really hard to get unless, or even see, unless you're in a noble family, and of course she's not. She's in a commoner family that's in a 4-person household with a older sister and a mother and father. And this series is just so entertaining to me. It did a lot of world building that you don't see in a lot of other isekai. It's usually, an all-powerful character comes in, gets summoned to another world, builds a harem of, and has to defeat the whatever the big boss or monster there is, right? But in this world, it doesn't have any of that. It's this girl that's just wants to read books, or just at first that's all she really wants, and then she decides that once she finds out there's no books, that she wants to make one. And then she goes through all these trials and errors by just trying to get some form of way to make a book by using clay tablets or even trying to weave like papyrus, she says, I think it was, and all sorts of things. But she keeps on failing because not only is it really hard to get resources and she doesn't really know what she's doing, but she's also like, what, 5 years old?
Yep.
Or something like that. So it's not really all that easy for her, and she's also very weak. And you find out that within the show that she's actually dying. So, spoiler alert for everyone out there. So, given with that new hardship that she doesn't have that long, it's just been pretty entertaining how she's going through all these troubles and trying to gain the resources to try to fulfill her dream, and also just everything that's happened around her and how she's learning about everything. So it's to me it's been really entertaining. What about you, Vinny?
Yeah. First, when I heard the title, I'm like, okay, what the heck is this? Is this another typical isekai? Then when someone mentioned about the premises of it, and I watched the first episode, and that was it. Okay, I just have to watch through this, and I'm glad I did that. And as Tank mentioned on many things, I enjoyed this series mainly because it's more drama driven. It has more depth than the other isekai show, which tends to lack on depth and kind of gloss over a lot of things. This kind of reminds me of an article way back when the HBO series Rome came about, and they're talking about how their version of Rome isn't dark and dirty and greedy kind of a settings, whereas in your traditional Hollywood settings of a Rome was a very glitzy and nice and shiny and everything's clean. And if you started from this series, it kind of makes you clear that their version of a medieval representation is very much of that. It's dirty, it's greedy, it's not sanitary, all those horrors that this modern girl got transferred into this world and stuck into this sort of a very dingy, dirty place to be. And I think that kind of adds layers of a depth that I don't normally associate with the Isekai series, and along with all the trials and errors that she has to go through just to procure, papers and what have you. Looks like it's following by the parts of the novels. I think they just wrapped up the first season in coincide with the part one of the series, which also follows the same pattern with the manga, I believe. Was like 7th volume or something like that. But in overall, now I can't wait to see what happens to her now that she kind of take a leap towards a different world, transitioning into it anyways. I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say about this series.
Is it based on a manga or a light novel?
Light novel.
It's based on light novel, then they also made a manga of it, and then now there's an anime.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
J Novel has the rights to it. So if you go to the
Yes.
website, you should be able to at least read the first chapter or volume like that. I think they have usually the first volume chapters for free on each of their books on their site, so you can just.
And
check
I
it
think
out
they're just about to release a manga version too here as well. So people who doesn't like to read the book, there's always that option.
So I kind of dropped earlier. We're still on Honzuki, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I liked a lot of what it was doing. As Tank was kind of saying earlier, the protagonist of this show has a lot of general knowledge when it comes to the technologies that developed books. So the various backgrounds of things that were used at certain historic places, and has done a somewhat high amount of arts and crafts, is familiar with crocheting and just getting their hands dirty and doing some other stuff. So one of the things that this show did rather well was kind of iterate the process of starting from scratch. And a lot of shows that I see with characters who come from the modern world to a new world, they start rolling with things that drastically improve society, like developing irrigation if there is none, doing the printing press, blah de blah.
Oh, there's
And
this season 2.
yeah, in this show, the struggle is real. You kind of see the whole process of coming to like literally starting from zero and not having a lot of connections. As Tank also said, she is a young girl now. She's I think, yeah, 5, 6, not quite 7, I believe. And even though she has this knowledge of modern society, it's kind of hard to, as somebody that young, get the ball rolling into bringing it to reality. And she has, a lot of other people start kind of noticing that she has a lot of great ideas and she's doing great things. But like, I just liked how it balanced that aspect of the story with a lot of the other stuff that it has specific to it. For instance, just to try to hook other people to kind of watch it. At one point, there's a character who starts kind of getting a little squinty-eyed at mine, like, how do you know what you know? How have you done this before? And it started kind of becoming like an identity crisis to the show. That's like how it kind of started tackling that angle, and I really did appreciate that. And I kind of liked a character who, reincarnated over someone, which is not really something that isekai is known for. You typically either, get ported to another world as yourself, or you're just simply reborn. It's not that you have to assume a new identity. And while it didn't tackle that issue for very long, I just appreciated it being there. And I think that if you're someone who perhaps get burned out by a lot of isekai stuff, it makes it that much worthwhile to at least check this one out. Give it a shot. At first, I was actually kind of like rather praising the show, thinking that it was going to be like a sleeper anime of the year kind of thing, and it didn't quite hit that bar. But for me, for it to be at least a contender for that, for making it to that way on my list, I think it's a decent show.
Yep. It deals with a lot of different things in it, and since there's going to be a season 2, I'm actually kind of excited again, because it seems that they've already hashed out and taught us everything about the commoner world. So now we'll get to learn about a new world where she's going to be going into.
I will say that I do like to explore artwork for certain shows that I really like, and of the artwork I've seen for this one, there's simply not a lot. But there's a lot of like manga experts of the character being much older, so I almost wonder if season 2 is going to drastically age up the character and just continue, or if I didn't look into the source material to know if that was source material or someone's original work, but I was looking for it, and that's all that I was coming across. I'm like, oh, okay, so apparently this character gets older at some point, like a lot older, like young adult, teenager kind of a thing.
That's good news. I will have to say this, that after a while, when I heard her name, it reminded me of the Shield Hero mime. And I'm like, oh man, I forgot that character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I hate this name now. But this character's not that bad. So she brought the mime name back up for me.
Well, you could just call her the other mime name that, they renamed her into later.
So that was the Book Girl. Like I said, J Novel. If you go to their website, you can probably check out their light novel and see if it's good. I may check it out here in a bit as well. But let's go ahead and go to our next title, which so happens to be Beastars.
It just so happens I'm the only person who's seen it. Is that true?
Looks like Vincent saw a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't saw enough to really say one way or another.
Well,
It's
about
a Netflix
two-thirds.
casualty, right?
In part, yeah.
So what is this show? Is it? I think we talked about it last time, but I don't.
I guess you could call it a fantasy high school drama or something. But and starring animal people, it's as if the author saw a synopsis for Zootopia and said, "Okay, I want to make a messed up version of that." we talked about it at length in the last hangout, and like
Yeah.
I guess all the things we said about it still hold true. Like the society seems rather dystopian, but they kind of like drop hints here and there. They reveal parts of it. Of like, you know, the school is this very like managed world, but once they leave that world, then they're going to enter this like very strange and, you know, it's kind of nightmarish society. I guess another interesting attribute of it is like this comes from Studio Orange, you know, who did Land of the Lustrous, and they're like the only CG studio that I can name that's not like, oh, this CG is it's acceptable, you know, like Polygon Pictures. You're like, I'll just try not to think about it too hard and watch it. Like Orange actually makes CG computer animation that looks better than anything hand drawn. And like you notice when the some of the secondary characters are hand drawn. So the show has a lot of like CG characters and hand drawn characters put side by side. It's not actually that awkward. But you feel the downgrade. You're like, man, I wish that character was CG. It's the only time you actually want to see CG, because you know the CG characters are extremely detailed and fluid. And if you're into like fluid drama animation, this is the only place you're going to get it now, because you know KyoAni got torched. So for the time being, like only Orange can deliver this level of like fluid drama animation in the TV anime space, as far as I know. As a drama, I'll say that like, and I think we said this before, that it just has like gobs of bizarre sexual tension in like every scene, and it continues with that, and that's like one of the things that really sets it apart from anything else I've ever watched. And like one of the interesting late reveals is like, or well, they kind of hint at it the whole time, but like the carnivores have their nature, you know, like everyone's kind of fighting against their nature, and you know, the carnivores are trying to participate in this modern society where they're not eating the herbivores. But then, like, toward the end, you discover that the herbivores have this strange instinct to want to be eaten by the carnivores, you know, which is the most Japanese shit I've ever heard.
Sounds like that one salmon show.
That one salmon show. What was that?
Oh, that short, the salmon girl that tries to get
Yeah.
the guy to eat.
But sorry to interrupt. Continue.
It ends in a good place, and you know, if they make more of it, I'll definitely watch it. But I'm also ready for Hoseki no Kuni season 2. Like that's what I want more. Because at the end of the day, like Beastars is a drama show, and Hoseki no Kuni is like it's a far out action fantasy thing, and I don't know. I guess I just want the action. Like Beastars has its moments of action, but like school drama is its bread and butter.
So is this a title that when it comes out on Netflix, you would say we should give it a shot, or you think you would have to have a particular interest in certain thing to want to even try this?
No, it's not a show for furries, even though it is, but it's not.
It's not.
Like general audiences can watch this just fine.
Okay.
Also, it is the best produced thing on. You know, it's like the thing that has the best art, the best animation. It's either this, or I guess if you're into it, My Hero Academia. I don't know.
What?
Isn't there like a new season of My Hero on? I don't know. Everyone's been talking about that. Like,
There is a new season. I wasn't like I probably dropped it because I didn't have enough time to. Because I wasn't watching it because I was a fan. I was more watching it because I felt I would rather be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I think I'll watch the My Hero movie when it comes out. I've never seen any of the anime, of the TV show, but I feel like I have to watch a little bit of it because like everyone else on Earth is watching it.
Yeah, when they showed the, anime movie, it over the summer, I think it was, it made a lot of money. So, but I mean,
I
Beastars,
figured it'd be out by now.
I don't know if it's available. I'm sure it is. But anyway, Beastars definitely worth catching if when it comes out on Netflix, which I can't find the exact date, but it should be pretty soon, if not already. Um, and yeah, season 2 was announced at the end of the run, the first season here. So not sure when, because it does take quite a bit of time to actually get these projects going. So I think this one was I think Sean, did you say it was 2 years in the making or something?
I don't actually know, but I mean, my ballpark for how long it takes to make an anime is about 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are much shorter, and some of them actually end up, the pre-production phase is longer. I'm not sure what Beastars was. I know, Land of the Lustrous was 2 years, which is a pretty long time for this time, uh, the 2010s, I guess. It keeps getting shorter and shorter, and more crap gets produced, but whatever. So yeah, I watched up to episode 8 or 9, somewhere in there, and it's been an interesting ride. And the central mystery hasn't been solved, right? That started off in episode 1, and that I think is where they're going to end in season 2, but we'll see. So recommendation for me too when it hits Netflix.
So is
Yeah.
there an overall story? Like, is there something it's trying to tell, or?
Yeah, it takes place at a school where the herbivores and the carnivores, and these are like all talking humanoid animals.
Yeah, it's Zootopia.
Yeah, it's Zootopia. So it takes place at a school with the herbivores and the carnivores, and then it begins with a murder. Like someone is killing the herbivores, and this sort of creates this racial tension, I suppose, between the two groups. And that's all in the backdrop, because then it focuses on this like carnivore character. He kind of reminds me of Mob from like Mob Psycho, because he's like obscenely powerful. Like he's a big bad wolf, but he's also like very timid and very self-conscious about his power, and he wants to participate in this modern society, so he tries to suppress his power as much as possible. And then he's in like this drama club, so part of it is about the goings on at the drama club and sort of the battle of prestige between the different actors in the club. And this also this also sort of reveals more of the racial tension in the series, because some of the lead actors are like herbivores and some are carnivores, and they're kind of trying to jockey for the leading roles in this play that they're doing. And that's kind of the first half of Beastars. And then the second half is the students start making these excursions out into the wider world, and you get to learn more about this bizarre society that they live in. Because otherwise they just live at the school. They don't go home to their parents at the end of the day. They all live in dorms. So it's actually this kind of like, enclosed microcosm,
So
the school itself. Yeah.
So yeah, it's you wouldn't think it works, right? Because it's a school drama with a a veneer of furriness on top of it, and you're like, what is this? But it actually is really well done, I think. And although the conflicts between self and between so the internal conflicts between your actual who you are and trying to fit in and all of that, it's a analogy for other things in society that you might have trouble with, right? So in the end, I think it's going to be about finding your comfort, your comfortable place in society, and being able to accept yourself for who you are. So yeah, just give it a try when it hits Netflix.
I always go back and forth on like how metaphorical Beastars is trying to be. because sometimes it just pursues its own ideas, in ways that are somewhat disturbing. And I've also found this with Zootopia, but Zootopia downplayed it as much as possible. But Beastars kind of plays it up, where they're making a society of people who are not equal, and one half of the population is by nature prone to violence. So if you were trying to make this into a generic racial metaphor, it would be a very bad metaphor because it has like some dark implications. But Beastars kind of pursues that. It's like, okay, what if there was this society between these unequal people, and some were prone to violence, and others were prone to other things? Like, how would it work? And I actually don't know like what Beastars is trying to say with Legoshi, the main character.
Mm.
There seems to be some sort of like, especially with the sexual tension, like it might be making some commentary on like masculinity, but I'm not sure what it is. But it like fascinates me.
Yeah, I haven't read the source material. I just know, certain things happening from just reading about it in general. So I think the author has some interesting viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll probably check it out, I guess, once it comes out. Let's go ahead and check out this next title here, Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? Let me check and see this picture here.
I'm not really sure what this is. This
It's not
was
Babylonia, right?
Babylon.
Just to be clear, yeah.
Not Babylonia, Babylon.
Babylon.
The ancient Mesopotamian city. There we go. So this was one of the ones that aired on Amazon Prime. And to date, there are only 7 episodes out. I think there are supposed to be 12. But it kind of exists in its own category of anime, because the anime doesn't have a typical intro that's a minute and 30 seconds long. It's a short little 20 to 30 second thing that just shows silhouettes. There's no actual singing. It's just instrumental. The characters, let me get you a little screenshot, are all older. They're adults. One is a prosecutor. There are several police, and other professional type careers. They look like this, so there's nothing really setting them apart in terms of design. So I'd almost think that this was geared for older viewers or adults, because these guys are not really marketable the way a shonen character design would be. And the first episode or two tends to be about corruption within the political elite. And so the prosecutor is the main character, and he's trying to ferret out the truth and who's bribing who's in on this conspiracy and whatnot, and people are dropping dead all over the place. And then around episode 3, the show completely jumps the shark. There is a new ward that's set up in Tokyo that's supposed to be self-governing, and the leader of the new ward is an up-and-coming young politician, and his whole main thing for creating the ward is to allow people to kill themselves, to make it legal. And he inaugurates the opening of this new ward by having 40 people joyfully leap to their deaths off of a skyscraper and go splat. And then it just gets completely off the rails. There's this female character who can somehow change her appearance at will, and she's able to convince people just by talking to them that committing suicide's a good thing. It's utterly bizarre. And it ends with a rather gruesome attack on the task force that's set to kill or apprehend this woman. And it's just totally bizarre. And one of the weird oddities is that the animation for the mouths matches the words that the characters are speaking. And that's what I mean by saying that I think this might have been for adults, is because the animation isn't very flashy. It's all subdued, the color palette's really subdued. But then when it goes to Crazy Town, that seems like something teenagers would enjoy. So I'm really not sure how to classify this anime. And it's not even over yet. So I don't know where the heck it's going to go. But I'm going to keep watching it just to see.
It's only 8 episodes in.
7. Unless 8 aired today.
Tomorrow.
I checked yesterday and only 7 was out.
I guess
8 might have just aired. I
so
see it.
Was this released late or?
No, it released on time, but then in mid-December it took a break,
Yeah.
which is almost unheard of. And again, I'm just absolutely flummoxed by the creative decisions behind this, because it just doesn't seem to fit anything I've ever seen before. And I'm not going to come out and say that it's good, because it's really not. It's just an oddity.
Okay. And you said it was on Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I can't even remember how I came across this, to be honest, because I've seen little to no marketing or advertisements anywhere. But, yeah, what starts out as an interesting premise, grounded in the real world, gets almost supernatural. So, I'm not sure. The anime girl in question that can change her appearance. Let's see. This is one of her forms, I guess. And yeah, she looks very anime-esque, but this form of her doesn't show up until the 7th episode, so I don't know.
Very mysterious, sorry. My bad.
So for people who are watching this, she shared images on our chat, so unfortunately we can't see it in our video, but
So if any of y'all want to suffer with me, go right ahead.
I don't know. Amazon has terrible subtitles.
Oh my gosh, they are. They're awful.
Dude, you should see like Blu-rays from like a year or two ago with the yellow gaudy font.
I have some of those.
I have a few of those. It's terrible.
Okay. Well, let's go to another title. Next up is Psycho-Pass 3. So, real quick, should you have watched both seasons before and the movie, or?
Honestly, not really, in my personal opinion. We kind of start off with a new crew here, and while there are some characters who have achieved a higher position than they were in previous seasons, because the characters are new, you're getting introduced to a handful of new characters alongside like returning cast, but since they're introducing themselves to the new characters anyway, you might miss out on just a little bit of some characters knowing who like other characters they will meet later already are, but I'd largely say you could probably watch this one without having to have any prior knowledge. That kind of said, if you do check it out, it's, to me, the quality of this particular season is not indicative of the prior two. I'm not exactly sure how this one got produced or made or greenlit or who took it over. I honestly have not looked at any of the cast. I'm somewhat sorry. But I think right now it's like 8 episodes out, and just to let you know, every episode is literally like a double feature. It's like 48 minutes long. I was trying to get caught up one day, and I was noticing, I'm like, I'm not getting through many episodes. How distracted am I getting? And I didn't notice that every episode was dual length. And I'm like, oh, that explains it. So if you sit down to watch an episode, you have to kind of be prepared for it to take, almost movie runtime length. And that said, the episodes were usually somewhat so good that I didn't notice they were double features until I didn't, like, hours later in the day. I'm like, man, I only got through so many of these. What the heck? Um, the the amount of story that they fit into each episode doesn't kind of wear me out, but I don't know how that amount of runtime is going to work for everybody. But I think Psycho Pass 3 is a little bit of a re-envisionment of the series as a whole. So as you know, or as I'll lightly explain, Psycho Pass is set in a society which they have scanners that can like read your surface thought. And they have this city kind of council government entity that can read your surface thoughts and make crime estimation approximations of how dangerous you could be to society when things are happening around you. So they preemptively prevent crime by getting people who are likely to be criminals or people who are willing to commit crimes with a lot less of a threshold than some others by dealing with them with an incredible amount of psychological care, which that's hard to represent in an anime, so good thing that they don't really try, they just bring it up a lot, or by locking said people away somewhat permanently if you're really dangerous, or if you're just teetering toward the edge, they could kind of make you a member of like a police task force that minimally strips your rights, but they are somewhat still strict. Anyway, not to get too far into the synopsis here, what really set season 3 apart from the prior two was, I want to say, the subject matter at hand. So as you know, there's pretty much a plot that's always going to be happening. In 3, it's underground Illuminati-esque entity that operates obviously outside of civil. So they are controlling society in almost this like spy-esque espionage style. And I will say that the visual appeal of Psycho Pass 3 is there. They put a lot into making it look nice. I almost want to say they make suits look good, like not like better than Men in Black style. Not that Men in Black is indicative of making suits look good, but it kind of set that tone where the characters weren't really. I don't think it had such a spy espionage feel in the first two seasons. It was just kind of pursuing its narrative, and it kind of struck you as, did you care about his message or not? And one thing that I would like to promote about this series is with the new two buddy cops that they got going on. There's a new duo who are coming in and kind of running their investigative work. One of them is actually a foreigner, and foreigners are within civil society met with a lot of probably a modern day Japanese mentality. Sorry about that, but they are not well liked by society as at large. And how they deal with that in the series is kind of like if you watch it, but just to kind of promote what was more notable about season 3 to me was the attention to choreography. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat that happens, and whenever a fight kind of busts out, it's almost like the cinematic movie experience. It's not just this like couple moments or scenes of a fight happening and then boom, we're over. It's got a lot of intricate choreography to it, and I don't really remember that being a part of the series to begin with. So that's almost why I feel there's like a new team at play here. And the other elephant in the room that I will address is the other part of the body cop who is not like the ex-foreign or military guy, has this thing where he and I don't know how they explain it in the series, but he's able to hear noise like radio static, and through hearing this noise, he can mold his like mind. He can start thinking like another person and kind of see from their perspective. Now, one thing I don't like about this series, despite the fact that I do like Psycho Pass season 3 as a whole, is he can kind of recreate a crime scene in the past using this technique, I don't necessarily like how he's like able to see certain facts that, you know, if you just simply started thinking like another person, it wouldn't just like expose a happened in the past crime scene to you. But the way they implement the mechanic, I kind of, you know, like for me, forgave, because although they capitalized it on a lot throughout the show, there was just so much variety of the spy espionage, the fight choreography, and oh yeah, the guy who had the, you know, can think like another person thing going on. They try to add parkour to his character. So like whenever roadblocks or fights were busting out, this guy would like go parkour somewhere, and it just made the show that much more interesting. I think it's rather well polished. I don't remember it looking bad at any certain point, although I don't know if I particularly focused hard on that. But I actually surprisingly enjoyed Psychopaths 3. I'm not sure if it's over or not yet. I almost wonder if it's taking a break because it was weekly releasing double feature episodes, or if it's just over. I haven't looked into its core count, but yeah, I was really surprised with what they were delivering, because I almost figured it'd be every other week, but nope, it was a week, another double feature, a week, another double feature, and I was like, holy cow, what are these guys doing?
Hey Nick, have you seen Psychopaths 2? And what do you think of this
Yes,
sequel compared to that?
I'd say it's on a whole, there might be some parallels, but it's just handled so differently. I don't know, like, there's Psychopaths 2 was almost lighthearted in comparison to what's going on here. You almost have this society that's like using the internet against the cops, is largely what season 2 I could summarize as. And in this particular season, it's a lot more refined than that, because it's not just sheerly through the internet. A lot of times, these agents that operate for this underground Illuminati are known as foxes, I believe. And their big thing, one thing that you're going to hear a lot throughout the show, is they can conduct crime by coming up with a complex scheme of involving people with tasks that, you know, it's almost like they get someone to, you know, go pick this person up and bring them there. Like just how uninvolved people are in the crimes that are happening is what enables the crime to exist, because
So is it kind of like a modern cartel where it's like no one really
very
knows
modern
what
cartel,
what
yeah.
their goals are,
Yep.
and they're just like doing these little things and getting paid for it?
However, that only facilitates part of the story. A lot of it's also how they manipulate other individuals, because like I said, it's a lot of spy espionage. So there's just a lot more complexity in what's going on. The only thing I don't enjoy is how the character can figure out a crime scene by, you know, looking into someone else's mind in the past, which, how do you like explain that any better? That's the only thing I can't kind of come up with. But
Yeah, there's always been a little bit of magic in the premise of Psychopath. You just have to accept it.
I'd almost rather like someone from our group just attempt to watch it who's like, who doesn't think 3 would be any good. And even if you watch it and say it's not good, just like, you know, I'd like your honest take on it, because I figured people didn't check it out because of what 1, 2, and the movie were.
Yeah, like I totally forgot that there was a Psychopaths 3, because what I probably did is I looked up who was writing it, and it's To Ubukata, who was the guy who did season 2, whereas season 1 and the movie were written by Gen Urobuchi. Season 2,
Yeah.
you know, sort of infamously was terrible. Like
Well,
I only remember season 2 just being like way over the top, just like dozens of people dying in like the most gruesome way, and it was, you know, it kind of became a comedy at that point.
yeah, I will say that again, the story is a little bit paralleled. It largely kind of involves like very, very rudimentarily, but like kind of the same thing going on. But again, season 3 is a lot more refined. It looks a lot nicer. The fight choreography is there. The, you know, parkour element. The it just generally what they have going on at all times. They really focused in a little bit on how certain technologies kind of merge into society more. Like they really, it just felt a whole lot more refined than anything season 2 did. So I would honestly say if you wanted to see like him actually be forced to do a good job, that's what I think 3 would be.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it even just saying that it looks better is intriguing. Because, like, looking good or being competently produced is not, like, Psychopath's thing.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It blew me out of the water. It's like again, the aesthetic of the characters, the way that they blend, like how you use technology into what's going on in the piece, just seems like it had some thought put into it. Camera angles usually always had some attention, like here and there. When a scene was dramatic, it was not. I wouldn't say like every camera angle's the best, but it's rather well thought out in my personal opinion.
Okay.
Like I would not say that about Psychopaths 2.
So let's go ahead and go to our next title, which there it is. Okay, sorry, I had to find the little image thing. Let's get a little involvement from Mr. Vincent here. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in my next life?
Oh god.
So we're going back to Isekai.
It's probably the most stereotypical isekai of the season. Well, that and the other one with the high schoolers. But
I dropped this. I thought it was going to be cool, and then
Mhm.
it didn't go as planned. Like things go for her.
Were mistakes made?
Well, it never really goes anywhere. That's the problem with this series.
Yeah.
It kind of starts with a interesting, well, somewhat interesting premises of this girl who's assuming another identity in addition to another identity of being an isekai person. So it starts out okay. Well, okay, that's kind of interesting. So you're not just crossing over from another world, but now you're falsifying your identity even in this world. And then there's whole startup premise of okay, your powers are exactly half of the old things in this world, and just that the strongest thing happens to be this obscenely strong dragon, so you're ridiculously strong than your average person made out to be. So it kind of had the whole comedy element going for it. And problem is that it kind of got too serious for its own good towards the end. Towards the end was episode 12, was it 13? It starts going into this whole greater purpose of her, that she's not in this world not just because of the whims of the god who governs the afterlife, but there's supposedly this unknown reason to decide to chuck her into this world. And they casually mention towards the end how this world doesn't seem to have any notions of deity or god, that kind of sprung on you to make you believe that there's going to be a second season involving the greater plot. But overall, if you watch the whole season or suffer through the whole season, I just don't see how this is supposed to be light comedy type of isekai series turned into also serious down the road. I'm not sure if I'll like that much.
Does anyone else hear music?
I hear music.
Yeah, I hear.
What was
No,
that?
I don't.
I don't.
Yeah, somebody, I don't know, took it off or muted or something.
Oh, I think the screen share that I'm doing with the chat is also taking
Passing
my
through
desktop
audio.
computer audio. God damn it. Okay, that was me. Sorry.
Cool. So I cannot recommend to anybody unless they just don't have uh, nothing else to do but to watch more isekai series. I remember about a year or two ago, I pretty much all swore up the old kind of isekai, but I'm kind of going right back into that well again. So I guess I'm just gluten for punishment at this time.
You looked into the swamp, and the swamp has looked back at you.
Exactly.
To leave, but they
So
drag you back in.
yeah, pretty much. I guess I just cannot get away from it. It's one of those forgettable series. probably like a year from now, nobody's gonna remember until the second season actually set to come. What I did
God.
not like, what I did not like about this series the most is the background. Um, it has a weird oil painting background look to it, and it look completely out of elements. It just makes no difference in any kind of scenario, whether there's a backdrop, it always has that weird oil painting texture to it, and that's just driving me crazy. Some places, yeah, it will kind of make sense, but when your towns and the walls and the bricks and everything looks just like oil painting through and through and through, it just screams that they just didn't have enough budget or manpower to actually do a proper backdrop to me. And it's kind of pity knowing that character is decently drawn. It's not bad, it's not great, but it looked cute enough. But I just didn't like some of the choices they made production.
I also took a cursory look at this show because like someone kind of recommended it to me. And I skimmed around and I saw, or like I opened the video file and then it started off with this like really bad looking horse and yeah, I don't know. It's I can't watch anime with bad art anymore. Like I've just lost my taste for anime with bad art. So
Life is too short for it.
yeah,
To be
it's like
fair, I have yet to see a good anime horse.
Robako.
How about Horse Girls? Remember that one?
I
with
have
the
not
racing?
watched that one.
Uma
And I
Musume.
think
I remember that. Horses. They were
But
girls
yeah,
with horse
Sean,
ears. God damn it.
I definitely
too.
get what you mean. Is a couple of my friends were really into World Trigger and tried to get me to watch it.
oh my god, yeah.
But
Hey,
that
I
has
did watch that.
it has the crappiest
I'm not recommending
animation,
it.
and I couldn't sit through it.
Yeah, I remember that being unwatchable. Like I remember just watching it for a few minutes, being like, "Is this for real?"
Yeah.
It had a decent story.
So
Yeah, I liked the story, but I couldn't watch it because the animation was so blug.
I get you guys. I'm not trying to convince anyone to watch it anyway. I'm just saying I stuck through it.
Well, so what's interesting about this Average Abilities one is that my husband read the light novel, and he really liked the light novels, so he forced me to watch the first episode. And then he said, "Well, they're not really following the story at all. They're completely garbling the story. This stuff didn't happen. These characters didn't meet at this time." So even he was not impressed.
You're starting to sound. He sounds like Tenkun when he goes on about series that he read that he went on to.
I actually started this show because I thought it would be my cute girls doing cute things in an isekai world, but yeah, that didn't go too well. They didn't do really any cute things.
The studio is Project 9.
Yes.
They did the other isekai show this season too, the high school one. But in their esteemed bibliography, I guess, Pastel Memories, Ryo no Oshigoto. But they did also do There's Never a Girl Online from, what was that, 2016, which was
That
not
one
bad,
kinda
but
cute.
everything else is pretty much mediocre. I mean, they started with Rokubu, which is that was it, elementary school kids basketball,
I
the
was about
lolly
to say Lolly
girl
basketball.
one. Yeah, that. I'm like, yeah. So
one
I
with
guess
the
they've got 2 other things they're doing next year that's in the works, but not exactly what you would call high quality studio.
So sad, so sad. Well, that's another notch in the isekai. Terrible. We should
Thumbs down.
we should make a spreadsheet of all the isekais.
Oh my gosh.
The
That's a
Gerst bad list.
Herculean task.
And then just split it from those that made it and then those that failed and just in the 2010 to 20.
Hey,
Might
you
as
would
well make
almost
an
have to
isekai pool.
it would be better to have like individual level data. Like, here's the shows that this person did at least watch, and did they give it thumbs up, thumbs down, so you can align your taste to the individual.
Yeah, Sean, I wouldn't trust your friend for any further recommendations.
Oh.
Ow.
Yeah, I don't. I like. I guess like everything she's recommended has always had bad art. So part of it is just like, okay, what's the next show that has bad art that she's gonna recommend to me? I don't know. It's kind of interesting that like some people don't care about the art at all.
Yeah.
Where like I'm a visual person, so it's
I mean,
at this point it's like it has to have good art, and that means there's only like up to 4 shows that I would consider watching every season because all the
Well,
rest don't
yeah,
have
because
good
if
art.
I'm going to be staring at something for hours at a time, I want it to at least be pretty.
So
Just
I'll
because I
admit-
didn't watch it, I wanted to ask, you checked out Beastars or whatever that thing's called. Did you give Africa No Salary Man a shot?
Damn it.
Who are you asking?
Yeah, Sean.
Oh, is that? I can't remember. Does it have like a
It was CG. There's like a lizard man, a lion guy, and like
it's a lion in a suit.
Toucan.
and a
toucan.
toucan. Yeah, like office workers.
yeah,
I checked out one episode, and if I had more time, I would have tried more. But
I think I downloaded one episode and I skimmed through it. I'm like, nope, this has bad art, and I didn't watch it. You know, because if I wanted that, I could watch Aggressive Retsuko, and that looks, significantly better at what it's doing than the Salaryman thing.
Mm,
all right.
can't argue with that.
Let's go to the next title. And since we're talking about friend recommendations, let's go ahead and talk about Oresuke or Ore wo Suki. Get away. Nano wa omae wa dake kayo.
Or just call it Oresuki.
Oresuki, are you the only one who loves me? So.
Well, this looks like a harem. Is it a harem?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about it. I read part of the manga back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. I don't want to read this. This sounds like this is so stupid. And what I had read was that this guy going into high school, the two girls ask him out and pull him to the side and then confess their love to him, but not to him being the target of the love. It's his best friend. So he decides he's going to help both of them and then pick up whoever's left over, right? So that's what I got from the manga, and I was like, this is so stupid, this is dumb, I don't want to read this. And then Albert talked about it last hangout and told us it was way more than that there's so much more going on. So I decided to watch it, and oh my god, it's hilarious. There is a lot more than what I thought was going to go on. And one of the biggest things that got me were the consistent running gags that they had going on, and also some fourth wall breaking in it that was just totally crazy. Like, I had binge watched it up to 10, and then I just finished watching the rest of it today, and they even made a reference to something. I was like, wait, when did that happen? And then the guy turns to the camera and goes, oh yeah, that happened in episode 2. I'm like, what? Okay, thank you for that. And just it was just hilarious. And then you find out that the whole focus, almost everything in this whole show, all takes place because of one event. And all these new characters keep on showing up, and it's always that one event that's the key thing about this whole thing. And it's just so funny how everything is connected, and it blew my
Baseball,
mind.
right?
Yes. Like one
Yeah,
of the,
damn it.
oh my god, like they tell all these stories. Oh, I was at the South Gate. Oh, I was at the North Gate. Oh, I happened to see them in the East Gate. Oh, I was standing out here, and it was just hilarious how all these people kept on interacting with each other and had all these feelings and all these emotions build up because of this one event or this one day. And of course, I almost kind of like wanted to, because I've been watching a lot of these YouTube do-it-yourself ththings. I kind of wanted to make my own little bench and just have it sit on my desk. Because it's just so hilarious every single time that bench appears. There's even a moment when this girl talks to him and he hurries up and turns around and looks around to see if he can find the bench.
And what I love about the bench is that there is a musical piece that's very close to the Star Wars Imperial March that plays every time the bench is introduced, and it gets me. Oh, love it. I don't know if this particular series is smart enough to be a deconstruction of the harem genre, but it's pretty darn close to doing it. And I can't decide if Joro is the horny friend that every harem protagonist has, or if he's really the harem protagonist. I don't know yet. I haven't finished watching it. I kind of got behind, but I really like it.
I'm behind too, so I'm about halfway. I mean, the
Same.
first 3 episodes is a complete arc by itself, and it was just satisfying as it is because the protagonist is the anti-protagonist in the harem series, right? He's the best friend. He's like, oh no, I'm the best friend, and then he comes up with some pretty shitty ways to like make the best of the situation, right? And so he doesn't come off. No one comes off as the good guy. They all come off as horrible people. So I'm like, oh, that's refreshing. And then like the next 3 episodes, it's a little bit more standard harem-esque, right? So I don't know what happens in the last 6 episodes because I haven't watched it, but at least it was an interesting take in the first 3 episodes. I mean, if you just watch the first 3 episodes, you could be done with it too, and just go, oh, that was a good OVA series. So that is why I recommend it, because it was so non-typical, atypical.
Yeah, it was amazing to me. So I like to thank Albert for pointing this
Bench
show out.
Kun.
Yeah. Oh my god, this show. And also, yeah, it's really strange how some of the girls end up becoming out the way they came out, but overall, it's just it's a great show. Just don't take it too serious. It's fun, and I would definitely say it's a good show to binge watch. I don't know if I could have stayed and watched all of it week by week and been entertained. I think I would have kind of fallen off a little bit, but since I was able to binge it all and get a lot of the story real quick, it made it that much funner. So yeah, if you have some free time and want some great laughs, I would definitely recommend this to quite a few people because it's great.
It has broad appeal as a comedy.
Yeah. So let me see here. What's the show called again? What is Vincent? You need to watch it.
Hmm?
You need to try to watch.
Okay, all right, I'll give it a shot.
So let's see. What should we talk about next? Oh, I know. Let's try this show because I try to get back into this, but I don't know if I can. People say it's good, but I don't really know how good it is.
Which one?
Assassin's Pride.
Oh, okay.
So like, it says you're watching it, right? So like, what was so good about it? Like, why?
I wouldn't really say there's anything so good about it necessarily. I started watching it because the premise was interesting. It also gets points for being a fantasy that's not an isekai. It's basically about a world that's completely dark all the time. I'm 11 episodes in, we still don't know why. And there are certain people with powers that manifest, and they fall into different classes. So there's like paladin, samurai, mage, stuff like that. And all of the nobles want to have scions with really powerful classes because it's a matter of prestige. And one of the main characters is a young girl in school who has not manifested any powers. And she's well past the age when those powers should have manifested. So her father hires a teacher slash assassin to see if he can jog her powers, and if not, he's supposed to kill her. And I thought, okay, so that's going to be a really interesting dynamic between the two of them. There's going to be tension, like, is he going to do it? Is he not? And that pretty much gets solved right away. So the whole reason I watched the show just gets thrown out of the window within the first 2 or 3 episodes, I think, because the main character does get her powers. And the other thing I thought was really interesting is that her relationship with her father, they could have delved into that, where there are some people that you can never please. You can never make them happy. And her dad was kind of one of those, where he hated her because she didn't have powers. And then when she finally got powers, it wasn't the class that he wanted. And she kept trying to please him, but there was never that character arc of her realizing that nothing I do is ever going to please this man. So I don't know if the novels would be better, because it feels like the show is an abridged form of the novels, and there's a lot of information that we just don't have. Because the assassin guy is like a half human, half vampire, half something, like Man Bear Pig. And they never really explain within the context of the show what that means. So I always felt a little lost watching it, and I can't tell you why I kept watching it, to be honest. Maybe I just hoped it would turn around, because I am in desperate need of a fantasy anime. You have no idea. Just pure fantasy, none of this isekai BS. So I can't really recommend this one. Tank, have you read the novels of this one, Assassin's Pride?
No, I was reading some of the manga, but their uniforms remind me of Cat's Eyes so much.
Oh my gosh, their uniforms drove me nuts.
Yeah, I
They've
couldn't.
got eyes on their boobs.
That's why I couldn't watch it. I tried. All I saw were eyes looking at me.
It's the uniform that stares back at you. Let me see if I can
Where
get
are
it.
you people looking? No, I'm kidding.
What is your implication there, sir?
Oh my god, I can't unsee it. It's terrible.
Nice.
But that drove me crazy. I just couldn't. Whenever I saw that, I know.
It certainly does kill the dramatic atmosphere when you've got the eyes on the chests of all of the girls looking at you.
What was it? Like all these girls were like 14 years old or 12 or...
I'm not really sure how old they were supposed to be.
They're like 14 or something.
I couldn't tell you. They might have said at one point, but I don't remember. But yeah, the outfits that they have them in are not great.
Jessica, I think next season there's going to be a show called what is the English title? The Japanese title is Somari to Mori no Kamisama.
Yes, I am on board with that. Have you read the manga?
I have read the manga. I've read the first 2 volumes, and it's actually really interesting.
What's the English title?
That is wonderful to hear.
What is the English title?
Let me look it up.
Somali and the Forest Spirit?
Forest Spirit, yeah, that's what they're going with.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I want to read that manga, but I figured I'd give the anime a watch first.
they'll probably do the same thing where certain things will have to be shuffled around to make the arc complete, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I might want to watch it on its own, but it's I think you'll like it quite a bit, especially knowing that you liked Ancient Magus Bride. So
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
So let's go to our next title, which I'm going to choose here, called Val Love. It's our only show this season that I can think of that's has any etchiness in it. It used to be like there would be these big titles where you would have a lot of these. What did you call it? The three Bs, the bus, butts, and battles, or what was that you used to call it, Albert?
why are you throwing it to me, man?
I thought you used to have a term for this back in the day.
It might have been Tripoli. I'm not sure.
Who knows? I thought it was Albert, but
Oh, it could have been Tyler.
That sounds more like a Tyler thing. We're both old men, you know.
but this is one of those shows. Actually, the saying is, someone once said, "Love is the source of a maiden's power. However, it is impossible for a maiden to sustain that love alone." So these girls, of course, they're from like up above from the gods. They came down below to help protect the world from some demons that are spawning. And in order to manifest their powers and to grow stronger, they need love. So this one guy in high school just so happens to be their they call him their lover, which was chosen by the their father, I think, I think they're after his name was Odin or something like that. And the girls are all Valkyries, they call them. And yeah, so he, as their lover, has to go through all these situations to increase their love with him, to power them up. And it's it's so dumb and so weird. But the thing is that the guy, he's this big man with this evil look in his eyes and just has this most intimidating presence. But he's like one of the most afraid person in the world. He can't deal with people. He gets scared all the time. He wants to just be alone and study. And so everyone that sees him gets afraid, and he's actually more afraid of them than they are of him. So when these girls try to approach him to get powered up, of course, he just can't deal with it. He tends to try to run away and try to get out of the situation. But of course, in the sense of danger and the looming presence of the enemy there, he somehow is able to pull through and help them. But yeah, not much to say about this show. Just wanted to let people know that if you like your ecchi titles, this is the one that came out this season. And other than that, not much else to say about this show.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
What other titles do we got out there? Oh, how about this? Let me ask you all about this title then. Next. Because people keep on talking to me about it at work, asking me, "Oh, have you seen this show? Are you watching this show?" And I am not watching it, but everyone else seems to be. So, how is Dr.
Stone.
Dr. Stone.
doing?
Well, it's over, so it's been done. Did.
Hmm.
So
It is
the
getting
interesting
affected.
thing, the interesting thing about Dr. Stone is it's literally an isekai show, but it's not. That's like one of its not actually interesting premises, but it literally, the other world is the Earth itself. So if anyone didn't know the premise of Dr. Stone at this point, it's the Earth is hit with like a green beam of energy, and it specifically transitions all like humans mostly to like a pure petrified state. For some reason, birds were undergoing this transition early on. They didn't really explain that mechanic as a whole. It was mostly just like a plot mechanic for figuring something out. But so essentially, what was it, like 1,000 years goes by, even though it doesn't seem like. Was it just 1,000 or was it more? But the Earth has essentially been reset. With humans frozen in stone, they get whisked away all over the place. And largely a character became depetrified at one point, and he was actually conscious the whole time, which is why, let's just say, he thinks that he awakened, first. Comes to find out that finds a way to revitalize other people, and also that there was a society that remained on Earth all along. And Dr. Stone was just the one show that the protagonist is like a science major in high school. He is very hands-on with a lot of college level science concepts, and he uses that to his advantage in this what's known as the Stone World, because he wants to revitalize society. He wants to start progressing the world back to what it was before this weird petrification that might never be explained happened. And along the way, he ends up reviving. They fall into some danger, and he ends up reviving this what was known as like the toughest high schooler, because we got to throw like Danganronpa stuff in here or whatever. But turns out that toughest high schooler has an envisionment that he would like to have in place. Now that the world's been reset, he likes the survival of the fittest mentality, and didn't necessarily like the fact of land ownership and like a modern day caste system versus like say white collar, blue collar work and all that other stuff. And he just kind of wants to return the Earth to a very, very primitive state. And it's his plan to literally single-handedly wipe out any petrified adult he comes across in his attempt to redo society. And that's a very major plot point because, none of the actual main protagonists of the show agree with that. They're very ethical people, and they have to somehow deal with somebody that they cannot stop using primitive means. So one of the biggest parts of the show is a little bit of they kind of like they had a moment where the science character had a faked death, and he had to go on his way to try to build up enough science to come up with a countermeasure for this guy. And I mean, I'm glazing over so many topics because it was a two-core, and I don't know if we talked about it at the halfway point or not.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, all right. So the second part of the story, which is all I'm going to focus on from here on out, was quite literally the rebuilding of society quickly. He meets this village, he has to earn their trust, and he starts implementing a lot of his adult level college technique despite being or knowledge despite being a high schooler to accelerate the society to as modern as possible quickly. And as a viewer, you're pretty much just along for that ride because it's, at least in my opinion, an interesting concept. There's a lot going on. There's funny messages all over the place about not trying to recreate some things because it's actually dangerous and might be illegal depending on where you live. There's just like so much to enjoy about this series, and it's not vague, but in its expansive narrative and concept. It's rather simplistic, but I also appreciate how it kind of ended, because one of the plot points that I will reveal is as soon as the Earth got petrified, we had there were people on the International Space Station, and they kind of realized there was a problem. So they kind of come back down from the space station, find Earth in the state it is, and just kind of say, all right, let's just, get society not like up to snuff going again, but just start a village and focus on bringing them up and passing down, like, I think it was 100 tales, which had a duality purpose of educating the people of, this Stone Age mentality, or not mentality, but ability, and at the same time hiding in messages that were going to be um, understood by anybody who did wake up in the future. And while they didn't really focus on the making of those tales or that part of the story, there was just so much to enjoy about Dr. Stone that there was probably not one reason any one person was watching it.
That's a good point, because it has a bunch of different elements that all kind of work together. Is that it's ostensibly a shonen manga. So you have the action and the fighting and all of that stuff, but you also have it based almost all around science. And while the science isn't 100% accurate, I think it does a good job in making science look interesting to young kids, while at the same time not glossing over the fact that it's a lot of hard work. Because there are a couple experiments that Senku will set up and will be working on for months, and then they will fail. And he has to start all over again. And a lot of time people go, oh yeah, I love science. And it's, no, you love the flashy stuff about science. You don't like the repetitive, tedious part of science. But it also has some great character moments too. I will say though, it is not bingeable, at least for me. I got behind and I was trying to catch up. And the characters and their catchphrases got really annoying really fast. After about 2 or 3 episodes, is the 100 billion% sure or whatever that Senku says. It's just, oh gosh, not this again. So it's certainly one to look at in bite-sized chunks. That said, I don't think I'm going to be on board for the next season. It just, I don't know. It wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. But it's certainly not bad, and for kids and stuff, it's fine.
Just like a little spoiler speak, talking about like the next season, it kind of flabbergasted me a little bit, because like one of the early premises was we have to stop the Science Society from basically making like guns, because that technology is going to circumvent our survival of the fittest, and we can't have that. And so like I know that the story was or like plans have been compromised, and you have to like do cut corners. But spoiler to anyone who hasn't watched Dr. Stone, like, turn off your mics now or whatever. But like
Mics.
or yeah, skip this, or anyone in the group, turn off your speed. But I doubt anyone here cares. Apparently guns couldn't be practical enough, so the whole thing that's leading to the war of season 2 is radio communications in a phone like manner. And it's like, what are you guys doing? You literally can't, like, you acknowledge that you can't take this guy down practically without guns, and the thing that's going to win it for you is the ability to outmaneuver him than when you can't beat him in a fight. Like I just don't know what the show's going to necessarily do. And yeah, like I could see why you wouldn't want to watch Stone. Like you would stop at that point.
I don't think that Senku is ever gonna make guns. Because since this is focused on Japanese teenagers and guns are kind of, I don't want to say taboo, but they're definitely not the same as they are in America. My guess is that Senku is going to try and get every one of Tsukasa's minions over on his side by giving them something that they want, a la the Diet Coke to the mentalist kid, or just the soda. And I think that's what he's going to do, because there was the girl with the really stupid hair, and he got her the cotton candy, and so the implication is that maybe she's not going to kill him when she runs into him. So my guess is that he's going to show that, hey, science is better than brute strength. Come over to our side. Because I really cannot picture Senku running around with a gun shooting people.
I mean, I honestly didn't picture that either, but that's just kind of what I meant at the narrative level of what they said early on versus how they were going into season 2. I do think that it is going to be a lot of, they have the mentalist, they have the psychology. I think modern day, like when you're someone from modern society who's cast into basically a desert island, I think modern conveniences are enviable. Like I'm not too sure how many people are totally fine with. I know it depends on the individual. We do have some people here in the States who like live as much off the grid as possible. I mean, still with modern conveniences in some form or another, but like,
well,
yeah.
We can go to hospitals if we get sick. Whereas back in the day, you got sick and it was just you had to wait and see if you lived or not. And I think that the show does a pretty good job of illustrating that if you have a problem like the eyesight, back then, oh well, you just weren't that good at hunting, and showing that science makes life easier for us. Has anyone read the manga and can weigh in on the direction of the story?
No, have not read it. I mean, if you want to know, you could just go to the wiki, I think, and
Yeah.
they'll probably have spoilers about what happens. But I was fully expecting like the end of this, the core to coincide with the end of the war thing, but I guess not. So it's kind of a weird place to leave it at. But then again, I don't know the original source material, so I guess they had too much stuff to cram in to be able to wrap it up like that. Because it continues after that, the manga.
It's also weird how the main character, Taiju and Yuzuri, are hardly even in the latter half at all.
Oh, well,
they weren't in it from even like the beginning for the most part either.
Yeah,
it is called Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
This is true, but I don't know, when I started it, I got kind of the feeling that they were setting up Taiju to be the exposition character. So Senku would do something really amazing, and Taiju would be like, "I'm a dum-dum, and I don't know how all this science works." And so then they could explain. But then they just got him to leave, and Senku ended up explaining stuff to us anyway, which worked.
Yeah, because he was explaining it to the
other people, right? It was a trajectory that I did not anticipate.
Okay. So before we get on to the next title, I kind of want to go over another title. Just want to ask Jessica about it. It seems like you might have dropped it or you just haven't watched it all, but Mugen no Junin, the Immortal.
Oh, that one I'm behind on. I don't know if I'm gonna continue it though, because I'm unimpressed with the way the sword scenes, the fighting is animated, and in a samurai drama that has a lot of fighting, that's pretty important to nail, and I don't think the show really has nailed that aspect of it. But I'm only 3-4 episodes in, so tell me what you think about it.
You're watching it, Tank?
No, I just wanted to know about it because I was thinking of maybe watching it, but...
Oh, so you haven't seen it. Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Do you want me to explain, or is everyone familiar with the concept? Because this is the second or third anime series that Blade of the Immortal has gotten.
It's second, and then there was like a attempt at a movie in between.
Yeah.
And there's a live action movie, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
But would like to, because it's the director is the same guy that did 13 Assassins. So
I haven't seen that.
what was his name? I can't remember. But I from what I do understand, I didn't watch the previous series. adaptation. This one is supposed to be more true to the and follows the manga closer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, like the first three, it's on Amazon. The first three episodes I watched is okay, but nothing like mind-bogglingly impressive that I was expecting. So yeah, same as you, Jessica. I'm a little disappointed. I guess my expectation was a little too high.
Same here.
The story is, if you haven't read it, the story is really fascinating. It starts off with a typical revenge story, but the one who wants to avenge her parents can't because she's a girl and she's too young and she's too unskilled, and so she meets a strange old creepy lady that says hire someone that can kill for you, and she does. The story starts.
Dun dun dun.
So, it is bloody and there are body parts flying all over the place.
It's not for the
But
squeamish.
right, yeah.
All right. So then let's go, I guess, to rather than swinging swords, we're swinging tennis rackets with Hoshiai no Sora.
Has anyone else watched this one?
I didn't even know it was out.
Oh, gosh, guys, this is anime of the season for me. So it's all about soft tennis. I know absolutely nothing about soft tennis. But it's about a bunch of boys that are trying to kind of stop their club from being shut down. And before you go, oh, not this again, the reason why it's getting shut down is that the boys have not really been taking soft tennis seriously. And so the student council figures that why fund a club that isn't going to do anything? If they're just going to sit around and not play tennis, there's no reason that they need to sponge off of our funds. So it's kind of their fault that the club is being shut down. It's not the arbitrary thing of you only have 2 members and you need 5 or what have you. It's they brought it on themselves basically. And one of the boys really does not want the club to get shut down because his brother was one of the founders when his brother was in high school. And so he recruits his best friend to come in and play soft tennis and learn how to do it all. And the best friend, whose name is Maki, is really good at cooking. He lives with a single mom. They have a pretty good relationship where they support and care for one another. Is his mom has to work to support the family, and so Maki does all of the cooking and the cleaning, and he's pretty good at it. So he's a pretty responsible fella. And it does the typical, oh, this is a tennis racket type stuff in the first episode and showing Maki how to play soft tennis. But then at the very end of the first episode, Maki goes home, starts working on making dinner for his mom, and then his estranged father comes in the apartment, beats up Maki, and takes Maki's money that he had been saving. And so it does this complete heel turn where you think it's going to be this cute little sweet story about a soft tennis club, but no, it's about domestic violence, parental abuse, helicopter parents, the struggles of LGBTQ teenagers, just all of these different issues wrapped up in each one of the characters in the club. And what I really like is how real the anime makes these characters, is that when a character is introduced and you find out what their problem or their issue is, it does not get resolved at the end of the episode in which they were introduced. It might take 3 to 4 episodes and there's some progress being made, but it's not, oh, I'm all better now kind of a thing. What else was... Oh, the other thing is that the animation is really, really good, and it's also subtle good, too. Is there are scenes where the characters are standing around talking, but a character that's not involved in the conversation might be kind of shifting from side to side on their feet. There's one scene where a girl gives her sensei a sketchbook that she drew, and she hands it to him, and he takes it from her, and then he just kind of looks at her and then looks at the sketchbook and looks at her again. And it's all of these subtle movements in the animation that really convey that these characters are real people. So I cannot recommend this anime highly enough. However, Ann ran an article a couple days ago where it turns out there was some sort of scheduling conflict. And so even though Hoshiai no Sora was supposed to be 24 episodes, it ends at episode 12.
Oh,
There's
this is
nothing
the
more.
one.
This is the
Yeah,
one.
I
And
heard
it
about
ends,
it.
on a downer of a cliffhanger, too. It's just, I want to know what happens next.
So wait, what's going on? What?
Weren't you listening?
Like, I mean, why did they explain why it stopped, or?
Some kind of scheduling conflict. I guess that when they first scheduled it, it had been approved for 24 episodes. And then partway through production, they said, oopsie, we didn't schedule your show for 24 episodes. We scheduled it for 12. But the director felt that there was no way he could condense the material down. And I really don't see how he could, because the show is packed as it is with everything. But I would say you do owe it to yourself to watch this, because this is how to do a character drama.
So does it kind of end like what was that show, Real Girlfriend? How that just like abruptly ended?
I watched that one.
That's kind of an interesting problem in this modern society that we find ourselves in. Like, I mean, just because when you want to align with cable-esque releases, I get that. That's where the industry has like thrived for years. But then when you have companies who like, Netflix, who while their shows do release on cable over in Japan before they stream them entirely through their service here, it just seems like you can almost find a solution for a problem like that doesn't necessitate it having to thrive on cable. But I get that they probably thought about that. I get that it's a really big issue, but
It's
You
just
know,
unfortunate that it had to happen to this one and not, say, one of the stupid isekai ones that we have a billion of,
yeah, I had this one shelved in the back of my mind. I was waiting for someone to say something good about it. Because, like, from around the edges, it sounded pretty good because the director is, not everything he makes is golden, but it comes from a director who has been in the industry for a very long time and has made a lot of hits. And then, like, people were kind of excited about the animation. Like, it was going to have good animation, but, I feel like I've seen every possible variety of, like, competitive after-school activity club thing that, like, oh god, it's like someone needs to tell me that this does something actually new and it's not just
It
you know
does. It's more than the sum of its parts. My explanation is really not doing it justice. Is that the soft tennis is just the setting.
right.
It's not the main impetus or motivation for people. I mean, it kind of is, but it's almost more like a metaphor for self-improvement or an outlet for kids who are struggling in all kinds of different ways. And every single one of the characters is a well-rounded, interesting individual. So I think this is one of the only anime I've seen where they deal with maternal rejection in a serious way. So it's got so many layers. You really should watch it. Give it a chance.
So it's no Prince of Tennis?
No. Oh gosh, no.
yeah, Tank, weren't you listening? This show's too soft for that.
So, okay, here's a dumb question. I probably should have Googled this, but is there a difference between tennis and soft tennis?
I have no clue.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I think
I
it has to do with the court. It's probably like they're playing on grass or sand,
Oh,
rather
okay.
than turf or concrete.
I don't know how you could play tennis on sand, but sure.
Isn't it the
Soft
Isn't it
tennis
the
differs
ball?
from regular tennis in that it uses soft rubber balls instead of hard yellow balls. That's what Wikipedia says.
Okay.
So I guess
Yeah,
different
I
balls.
figured it was something more like a racquetball or something.
I was
It's
guessing
played
it was
primarily
regular.
in Asia, especially in Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
My guess was wrong.
It's
then.
like a variation of soccer known as what's that other variation of soccer they have? Foosball or something like that?
Rocket League.
No.
Pickleball?
No, they have like I guess it's like indoor specific. I don't know. I've seen an anime about it, but I didn't watch it. So
Huh.
futsal or something. It had a name.
So, yeah.
Oh, futsal. I don't know
Tart-
what that is, but I've heard of it.
It's hard soccer, where they use a bowling ball. There's a lot of foot injuries in that sport.
I'm sure.
All right, I gotta run.
I
I'll-
do too.
I'll see y'all later.
All right.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
take
All right,
care.
see ya.
Yep, thanks for
guys.
hosting.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 I'm waving, but my video's off, so you can't see.
Bye bye. Albert. Okay. Next title. Everyone's favorite, Fate Grand Order.
Woohoo!
I like how you give me that one when the other two go away. Not that they would like just because I know they would ask probably decent questions, but So I will start out by saying yes, Fate is a rather expensive series. We just had that somewhat spin-off series, the El Malloy Files, that has nothing to do with this show. So what makes this show? Well, I found out because I had to explain it to somebody, I guess. That, as you know, Fate released an app game called Grand Order, which can be abbreviated as Go. They also had an episode of anime not made by the same studio that they released, I believe, right before the app went mainstream over here. I forget why. I'm just saying I forget if it was already a thing in Japan, and then I don't know the timing of that episode being released with respect to the North American and Japanese releases of the app game.
I think
But at
Japanese
one
is
point-
exactly. Oh, sorry. I think
Go ahead.
Japanese is exactly 2 years ahead of a North American schedule.
Oh, I mean, perhaps, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so that makes sense that it probably would have been for the American launch then, because it wasn't 2 years ago that thing came out, I don't think. Anyway, they apparently had a poll in the game or outside of it, conducted on probably a Google form. No, I'm kidding. That asked which fans liked one of 3 events that they had in the game, and one of the event that won the poll was going to be animated. So what this show is quite literally a smartphone app game event that was storylined for the app game, and that's what people voted for it getting animated, and yeah, that's its origin. So it doesn't. It's more of a spin-off than anything, since again you now know its origin. But it covers a story from the app game in which there's, I think, a wizard king or something whose goal is to destroy humanity, and he has made like not mock, but like he has poisoned Grail wars of the past so that it would cause a timeline-wide like apocalypse of Earth and humanity as we know it. So of course it's our, the gosh darn this thing again. Hang on. First world problem here. I couldn't get to my alarm disarm because I didn't realize my S Pen popped out and it wouldn't let me go to my screen with the S Pen being out. Anyway, so yeah, so the prop premise there is it's the motivation of the player of the game to, through the progression of the events, say participate in the Grail War and obtain the Grail and then safeguard humanity. So apparently this is the last leg of that journey, where it's the final Grail War, and that the Mage King caused, that they have to, prevent the apocalypse of humanity with. And the cast of characters covers all of the lore of Fate, as I think, it, because like anything available to the app game is what could be pulled into the app, and I don't mean like from the user level, just the characters present. So the interesting thing here is it's a side story in which Gilgamesh is still alive. So you have him as a somewhat of a protagonist of the show, because he's hasn't died. So this is before he went on to become a heroic spirit, and which in and of itself is kind of interesting, because one of the things that I never considered with Fate is how close a person is to their heroic spirit. You kind of saw with the get-go of Fate's Stay that Emiya eventually goes on to be a lot like Archer, like when it comes to what his skills were and what he would combat with. But then you kind of wonder about Saber, with if she's King Arthur, did she really possess those techniques way back in the day? Why would you have to? But again, this is just a tangent point of mine. Anyway, so the Grail War has a 3 goddess alliance that are working to humble humanity. Not necessarily destroy it, but they temporarily end up on the Mage King side and are working against humanity and, progressing it towards its apocalypse. The characters are recycled from, the character pool that Fate's subjected to. One of the goddesses is Tosaka. Another of the goddesses is I forget what her name is, but the blonde, short-haired Fate character, who I don't know if their names all that well, because there's not that many of them, but and then an original entity as well. Or was it two? It doesn't matter. So it's not to say that it's going to be an actual, survival of the fittest, or the last one standing actual Grail War, but it has quite literally a spin-off kind of a storytelling technique. One of the things that actually caught me rather off guard with it was its combat. I actually thought it looked really nice. I thought to myself, who is doing this combat? I could see this being UFO Table, but it didn't quite click. It looked polished, but it just didn't really look like them. So I look it up, and it's being done by the studio Cloverworks, which, in my opinion, they really only have credits going back into 2018 when you kind of look them up, and they have been involved in a lot of other projects. However, they're a rather new studio, so it's kind of interesting to see this level of quality come off them. And their notable works, in my opinion, aren't actually actions. So they did do Persona 5, but I didn't watch Persona 5 to know if it had good action. The other actual prominent titles under their name that you might have heard today is the Rascal Bunny Girl Senpai show, which was an action. I might have to go quiet the dog. And what was the other thing that they did that was really notable? The Promised Neverland is their other kind of biggest title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but again, not like an action flick, so it doesn't really paint the picture as how the studio is able to handle action. Now, they do have a credit I noticed on the list, since I had it pulled here and I was looking it up. It said they worked on the final season as a co-production with A1 Pictures on Fairy Tale, which would be, in my opinion, a rather combat-involved story. And they apparently did get a credit again with A1 Pictures and Trigger on Darling in the Franxx. I do know A1 Pictures and Trigger got the bigger credit there, but they're noted for doing that one in there. So yeah, I mean, as a spin-off story, it's not going to be the best Grail War you've ever had, because it's not actually a Grail War. you have to be fine with tolerating recycled characters as, spin-off past characters. Hang on, guys. I'm sorry.
So, anyone else watch it?
Yeah, of
No,
course I watch it.
I tend not to watch stuff that's based on games because they can be good, but most times they're not really.
Wow. In this case, I think it works simply because the way the game is structured. So
So does that mean you're not going to watch the Modaka game or movie or show that's coming out?
Yeah, a Magia record.
I don't know about that one because I stopped playing the game, the Magia record, so I might actually watch that one. Are you guys gonna watch it?
Give it a shot if I have time.
Same here.
maybe.
So, Nick, would you say that this has a pretty good story, even if you haven't played the game? Is it worth
All
watching?
right, so I'll honestly say the story is, it's not bad, but it's not structured like well. Like, the plot point sounds kind of weird, as you already heard, and while watching it is really linear and it kind of makes sense, if I were to have to give you a summary of all what's going on, as I lightly already did, it does sound kind of convoluted and, not the most memorable thing you'll have going on from the season.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I would recommend, at least kind of thumbing through, like maybe grab the episodes and just kind of thumb through, is when they do the action scenes, because I really do look forward to what the studio will go on to do from this one. And the general design of it is actually not terrible. The backgrounds are actually detailed. The characters are very dynamic. They, even in dialogue, they'll typically have subtle movements here and there. Like, I mean, sure, they'll stand still here and there, and they're not constantly moving, but there's just a lot of attention to making the backgrounds look actually nice and having decent camera angles and, characters that looked good alongside actually decent combat. Like, some of the action scenes from this shows, I'm surprised I didn't see them, like, clipped out on YouTube and stuff. I did see one. They did a live action thing. I'll share the link in here. I can't. It's not that I can't let it hit the internet. I'm just probably not, going to try to share it with all of YouTube. It's not gonna anyway. But so I would say it deserves a shot, but if you want to bail because the story's not there, I can understand it. But I would say at least it looks nice.
Hmm.
Like, when it comes to the characters during dialogue, when it comes to, general design, and when it comes to the fighting scenes, it's there. It does feel like a solid Fate property for that reason, but it also doesn't because of its quirky concept of that convoluted nature that I've already described. Like, sure, El Molloy was kind of weird in where it wasn't really an action show. It was kind of a crime detective thing with magic that largely, the fans who only watch anime would not know of at all. And I don't even know how well how well it is explained outside of anime lore, because I haven't read any of the light novels or anything. So for that reason, this series is a lot easier to understand because they don't dive into any of the magic backgrounds that Fate has a lot of. Characters just do flashy attacks, and there's no spell setups and any background knowledge there. It's just like characters duking it out in this show. So on that premise, it's easier to pick up and go with, but like, it also doesn't fit into the face verse nicely because, again, it's not a Guerrero War and it's recycling characters, but that's because it came from a smartphone game.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other titles you all want to talk about, or
How close are we to? I mean, there's stuff I can mention, but
we're exactly at 2 hours 3 minutes and 52 seconds.
I talked about it before, but if you haven't watched it, you really need to watch Fire Force.
Watch what?
Fire Force.
Yeah, Fire Force or
Oh.
NN no Shobutai.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch
Yeah,
it.
it's still good.
Yeah.
I
We're
don't
gonna
know if
talk
it's
about
ending.
beautifully animated fight scenes. Oh man,
Yeah.
there's a lot of eye candy in that show.
Yeah, I'm keeping that as a rainy day series to watch.
Azura Lane was also out there. No one watched that. I got 6 episodes in.
One episode and I'm done. I'm done with that.
No,
I don't play the game, so I just cannot associate it. And every time I try to watch Azure Lane, I'm keep reminding myself back into the other
watch
series.
episode 3 because at least there's Belfast. That's
One thing
that's
that
my
I
ship
will
waifu.
say is that I would actually want to bring up if we don't do another like a second video is the second season of Stop This Sound, Kono Oto Tomare. If you didn't watch the first, I really do think it's worth it at this point. So what this series has going for it is that this is the show about the musical instrument known as the koto, by the way. So it's a band that, much like Jessica pointed out earlier, was kind of struggling. It was very unpopular when the seniors graduated. There was only one dude left there, and he was, trying to get his club to kind of survive. And it had a rainbow of, well, not really, but a couple characters come in and kind of save it. They end up topped off around 5 or 6 members, which kind of keeps them around. A lot of the characters in it, one is a mediocre Koto player, one is actually kind of pro, and the other 4 are literally just started playing because of the club. Like they have no prior experience. And it's a very dramatic story. So you have to be ready for a lot of drama with this thing. But it has a really not like a shonen representation of drama, but like much like when you're watching a shonen show and you're going to get the concepts of, like good character and just what to expect for the fights coming up ahead. This show is rather predictable with its drama, but in a very good way. The drama that it presents is, you know, if you were hit with it in high school, I think it's very reflective to ask what you would do in such a situation, because this series is really good at throwing a lot of dramatic punches, and the glue that keeps all the characters together is like the positive vibe that the club has going on. It's just impressive how whatever is kind of thrown its way, when that dialogue hits and it's resolved, it's just such a good thing to watch the show for. And the show kind of promotes that within itself. Characters who are very jaded by either the koto or society or whatever their drama reason might be, encounters this club, goes, oh, you guys are not good. You mostly just started up. You're practicing hard. I could see that, but anybody who interacts with this club kind of walks away a lot healed on the inside. It's a very healing show, not literally in the healing anime sense, but if you like those concepts with tear-jerking drama, this is a really good show for you. I can't really.
Oh, I am gonna say I'm really happy that the second season is good because I started watching this one, and I'm very much behind on the first season, but I really like what I've been watching so far, and I'm glad that the show is maintaining that emotional weight and power.
It's so interesting, and the thing about it is, like, I can't say how good it is at presenting koto pieces because I honestly don't look into it a lot, so I don't know. One of the turmoils that arise towards the end of the second season, it's not a big spoiler or anything, is how people who are evaluating the koto view classical pieces versus modern. And that's not going to be a big element of the show. It's just kind of there a little bit, but it's just it's that variety, and it's that interpretation that I don't know the instrument that well. there are characters, like there's a character who's in the final episode who's kind of dragged to watch the school concert and goes, "Oh, I know nothing about this. I'm only here because I got this job and you're actually forcing me to be here." That's kind of like what I think, because I don't know the musical instrument that well. I just know what it's presenting in the anime. I've at least been positively receptive for. There are, like, when I went to go find a piece on or something, or when you look up, because I think a cousin of mine looked up what the koto was, because when I brought it up, he's like, "Oh, I've never heard of that before." So I stumbled myself over to the Wikipedia page, and it had like a sample of sound that you could listen to, and I'm like, "Oh, cool!" And I listened to it, and I'm like, "That's not at all like what they're playing in this anime." Like, holy cow! So like, I don't know. I know that since watching shows like Shirobako, I know that there's somebody who's playing the koto pieces. They went out and someone is either producing, covers of known works, or if they're actually creating in the show, they actually create original pieces. And I can envision that somebody who they are recording playing the koto could have made an original work. But there's just so much about the instrument I don't know that I can't begin to say with any level of faith of how fairly they're representing it at any level, or if the original pieces are good or not. I have no clue. But I enjoyed the show so much that while it doesn't pull me in to treasure the instrument any, I really do still love this show.
I could tell you one thing: the kotos are expensive.
Yeah, I could imagine. Instruments in general are just.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean,
Well, I recently got the Funimation subscription, and so I'm trying to go through their back catalog, and this was one of the ones that I really wanted to see, Kono Oto Tomari. But I also was curious about Fairy Gone. Have any of you guys watched that one?
I watched the first season, but I didn't have time for the second. I literally probably just got rid of the episodes because I'm sitting here today with like 0 of 12 watched for season 2.
Was season 1 worth watching, or just kind of meh?
I'd say closer to meh.
Right.
Yeah, I can't say there's anything any one thing there that is a must at any level. So it was a combat show. It had interesting elements, but nothing overly impressive at the same time. So very meh. Which is why it definitely went towards my cut list of stuff I haven't started, and then just had to abandon because I'm not going to play catch up with as much as I already got on my plate now. But yeah, no, Kono Oto Tomare season 2. I myself have probably been developing a slight morbid sense of I don't want to say. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Let's just say that even the most tearjerkers of animes back in the day have brought me probably close to the point of tearing, but like I'm not a big anime cry. It takes a lot for there has to be a lot of like a perfect storm that would get nearly anybody to kind of get tears to my eyes, and this show has had multiple moments where it probably got close, so that's probably saying something.
Good to know. See, I'm a weenie. I cry at the drop of a hat when I'm watching a movie or something.
Me too. Like what was it? Anohana, the movie. I was crying all throughout.
I remember. I literally remember that.
I haven't seen the movie, but the show, it got me bad.
Me too. As soon as they started playing the ending theme, I'm like, oh no, it's coming.
Oh man, have any of you played Final Fantasy 15?
No.
At all? Oh, there's a cover Alice of the Machine does of Stand By Me. And every time I hear it, if I'm in the grocery store, I just have an absolute meltdown. Because I remember the events of the game. It gets you right in the feels.
Can you share that with us, like in a chat later on?
I can try and find it on YouTube, sure.
All right.
It's the song is really good, but it's also the context within the story of what all of the characters have gone through that I associate their struggles with the song. That's what gets me, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty haunting version.
So I understand because like Air, that TV series. Whenever I
Yes.
hear Aozora, oh my god, I just start tearing up. I'm
Yeah.
like, Misuzu. uh, okay, well, everyone out there, thank you for watching OreAni. Um, thank you for being with us to the end of this year. Join us as we start next year. We'll probably be. I kind of want to hold back on the next showing until after the new Mikoto Shinkai movie comes out in theater, so maybe we can talk about that.
Okay.
So I
January
think that's like
15th.
January 24th or right, something like that.
I think it's the 15th, 16th.
Yeah, something like that. So
That'll work.
So that was what I was thinking. January 26th or the 19th. Let's do the 19th maybe. That we'll do our next hangout. Depending on how many episodes come out, we may have to pull it back to 16th. So
it should be up by like 2 or 3 by then.
Yeah, so anyone watching want to join us, become a new member. We got our Discord out there. I'll probably put a link if I remember. I'll try. For OreAni, if not, just reach out to any of our members if you know them or can find them. We're kind of split up ever since Google Plus disappeared, so I don't know where everyone is posting. I'm mostly on Instagram and Twitter, like once a month. Other than that, just comment on our YouTube and we can give you more information if you need anything else. Millennium Actress, I think, was just re-released on Blu-ray.
Yes.
With new subtitles and everything. And
dubbing was worth it. Oh my god.
So that's a new thing that's really fun. I recently bought Perfect Blue so that when Millennium Actress comes out, I can get that.
It came out.
Yeah. I bought my stuff at conventions. I haven't been to a convention yet. So. What other? Is there any other movies that are big coming out, or?
I don't recall my list right now.
So they've been mentioning Senkarol, I guess, is out. So.
Yeah, that one released at the disc level, though. It's not like a theatrical run.
So maybe we'll have to look and see if some people can find, or we'll watch it and let you know about it later on. And other than that, thank you all for watching, and have a happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's, yay. Bye, B.
Christmas tree.